Hi everyone! Congratulations for surviving week one of our fall semester. I wanted to give you a walkthrough of what week two is going to look like. We are going to move on to legislation this week, so I know it can be a little bit overwhelming, and we do have our first mini group project coming up, so I wanted to make sure that you are clear on all of the instructions. So what will look familiar to you is the week one overview and objectives and due dates. So it kind of gives you an overview of what we're going to be discussing. It also gives us our learning outcomes and objectives for the week and this awesome chart for you to see what is coming up and what's due. So the first thing I want to bring your attention to is this group law pamphlet brochure. This is going to be your first group activity for the semester, and I am going to give you a couple weeks to get it done. I'll show you the detailed instructions when I go through the rest of the module. You'll also have an opportunity to talk about this project with your group in your discussion this week. So your group discussion and your law pamphlet brochure are connected this week. And you'll see that the due date for your discussion, your initial posts are always going to be due Friday, and then your responses to your peers are always going to be due that Sunday. The next thing I want to bring your attention to that you'll have access to on Monday is our Play Pause It lecture quiz. So you all got to experiment a little bit with that this week or this past week. And now for week two, hopefully you're a little bit more confident and comfortable with it. So what I've done is record myself talking about legislation, going through the legislation PowerPoint, and embedding questions within that lecture for you to respond to. It is worth 20 points and is your quiz for the week, but what I do and what I've hoped that you've been able to see is that the questions correspond with what you've just heard within the lecture. So it's really to support your understanding of what you're listening to. That's not due until Sunday at 11:59, and then your last activity, and you can do this in any order you'd like, but is your legislation scavenger hunt. And what I've done there is assign you a web page and some questions corresponding to that web page for you to do a scavenger hunt to. So let's go through and look at what that looks like. So here you'll see the two different websites that I've actually assigned you. And within each website, you're going to see 5 questions for each site that you can find the answers to within the reading. You can type these into a Word document, or you can write them down and upload images of them. But what I want to really reinforce is that you're not copying and pasting the answers into your submission. I want you to summarize. I want you to tell me how you got there. So I know you're going to have to copy the dates and the names of some of these legislative pieces, but I don't want you to copy the exact wording from the reading, okay? Keep in mind that for some of these I have length requirements as well, so I'll be looking at that when I'm grading. Now let's move on to the next one. Here is where your Play Pause It lecture quiz is going to be housed, and it's the same concept. You can re-watch the recording as many times as you need to, but once you are taking the quiz, you only get one opportunity to submit your responses for that quiz. So make sure that you have enough time to commit to completing it. Okay. And then here are your group assignments for your law pamphlet planning discussion. So your discussion this week is only going to be between you and your other group mates that are within your law pamphlet project. So there will only be 3 to 4 of you in each group, and you will see, that you are only talking to each other within this discussion. So this is your opportunity to talk about what laws you plan to include in your brochure. It's your opportunity to talk about who wants to do what, and when you all want to work on this, because you do have 2 weeks. Are you all in agreement to get it done early? Do you want to get it done by the beginning of next week? Or are you all expert procrastinators and plan to turn it in at 10 o'clock on the 12th? So whatever works for your group, as long as you can work together in a constructive fashion, works for me as well. But this is your opportunity to have that discussion. Okay. Now, here are the details regarding your law pamphlet group project. I'm not going to read it step by step, but I do want to be clear. So if you haven't done a pamphlet before, what it is a trifold brochure, and there are different templates for this on PowerPoint. Google also has a template for pamphlets or brochures, and so there's different ways that you can do this. Each group member is going to come up with one piece of legislation that they're going to summarize and come up with a visual for. When you are creating your pamphlet, you're going to give your pamphlet a catchy title. So the example that I'm providing you with is the Know Your Rights. You will not be copying and pasting the laws into your pamphlet. So you're not just going to find the laws online or in the PowerPoint or in the lecture and then copy them and paste them into your project. You will be summarizing them so that they make more sense to the audience you've designed them for. Speaking of your audience, you're going to specify who the particular audience that you've created this pamphlet for are. So the example I have for you is this pamphlet is created for the Assyrian community because currently there aren't any written materials in the Assyrian language for parents and children with special needs. So I just want you to tell me who you've designed this for and then why. If you are fluent in a second or third language, please feel free to either translate the law that you've chosen and provide the English and the translation in the second language, or if your other group members are also bilingual and they want to provide multiple different languages, you're welcome to do that. I am also okay with, let's say 2 group members are not bilingual, 1 group member is, 2 group members can find 2 pieces of legislation, and then their third bilingual group member can translate each of those pieces of legislation. So you'd only have 2 instead of 3, but they'd each be translated. So I'm open to all those different scenarios. But please only do this if you are fluent in that second language. If you use Google Translate, it will not translate correctly. I've had students attempt to do this because they think it's going to make their project easier. And I actually decreased points and took off points because the translation was not correct. So just be careful. If you do choose to do this, please make sure that it's the correct translation. Add relevant visuals. So when you're talking about legislation, don't add pictures of children skiing, and make sure that they correspond to what you're talking about. And then lastly, include at least 3 different references where the community can find more information on the laws that you summarized in your pamphlet. And please don't forget to also put all of your names first and last on the pamphlet. So there are some kind of instructions and directions for your pamphlet. Only 1 person has to submit it. And as long as everyone's names are on the pamphlet, I will give points to everyone in the group, but only 1 person has to submit it. Okay. Let's continue. If this is your first time creating a pamphlet and you need some support, I created a tutorial about a year and a half ago. And so there's a tutorial for you to do this on Microsoft Word. There's also a tutorial attached to the module to do this in Google Docs as well. So either way is fine with me. Just make sure that you have group consensus as to how you're going to do it. It is worth 30 points, and there's a grading rubric attached to it as well. So I keep going. And here is the video for your Google Docs version of a pamphlet. And then you're done with the week. So I know it sounds like a busy week, but know that that big project, you do have 2 weeks to do it. So this is your time to get started on it while you're completing the other assignments within the week's module. So I hope this helps, and please reach out if you have any questions. Have a great week.